Queen Illithra had never seen her own palace. She knew every measurement of it. She knew the curve of its towers, the temperature of its halls, the faint electrical hum that ran through the living walls. She knew where every servant stood and how every guest breathed. But she did not see, not in the way other species understood sight. Her kind had been born blind for thousands of years. Vision had been lost, then forgotten, then replaced with something else, perception through fields, vibrations, and patterns of probability. From the moment she woke each cycle, the future unfolded around her like a quiet map. Choices glowed with likelihood. Conversations carried hidden outcomes. Nothing surprised her. Until the day she agreed to marry a human, the decision was logical. Humanity had entered the galactic stage only a few decades earlier, loud and unpolished, but impossible to ignore. They lacked refined perception, lacked predictive senses, and relied on fragile eyes and emotions. Yet again and again they disrupted plans that should have been flawless. Alliances shifted when humans were involved. Negotiations bent in strange directions. Entire outcomes changed, not through power but through something harder to measure. The council called it randomness. Queen Illithra called it a problem. The proposed marriage was meant to solve that problem. A symbolic union, a quiet leash, a way to bind the unpredictable species to something older and wiser. The human chosen was not a leader or a warrior. He was a diplomat named Elias Ward, selected after endless scans and reviews. Calm, honest, stable, ordinary, perfectly harmless. On the day of the ceremony, the palace filled with delegates from dozens of worlds. Their thoughts brushed against Illithra's senses like distant waves: curiosity, judgment, amusement. Many believed the queen was indulging in a strange experiment. Some believed she was weakening herself. Illithra felt none of their doubt. The future lines were clear. The marriage would stabilize relations. Humanity would settle into predictability. The galaxy would move forward. Elias arrived exactly on time. His footsteps were soft, careful, as if he were afraid of damaging the floor. When he stood before her, she sensed no hidden intent, no masked ambition. His emotions were open and unguarded. Nervousness, respect, and a quiet determination to do what was expected. He bowed a little awkwardly. "It is an honor, Your Majesty," he said. His voice was warm. Human voices always carried small imperfections, tiny shakes and shifts that revealed emotion. Illithra catalogued it without interest. "The honor is mutual," she replied. The ceremony followed ancient tradition. Vows spoken aloud for the guests, and silently for the truth binding that followed. The binding was not magic but a deep neural resonance. Once activated, the two bound beings could sense deception from each other with perfect clarity. No lies, no masks. It was meant to ensure trust between rulers. The moment the binding settled, Illithra examined Elias fully. Every thought that brushed the surface of his mind aligned perfectly with his words. No falsehood, no secret plan. No hidden fear beyond the obvious weight of standing beside an alien queen. He was exactly as predicted. That should have been the end of it. After the ceremony, tradition required seclusion. One night alone, away from advisors and observers, not for intimacy but for adjustment. Many political marriages ended in silence or distance during this ritual. The galaxy expected nothing more. The chamber prepared for them was quiet and warm. Soft surfaces, gentle energy fields, no guards, no servants. Illithra stood near the center, already reviewing future probabilities. The night would pass uneventfully. By morning, the bond would be complete and the matter closed. Elias did not sit immediately. He hesitated, then spoke. "May I ask you something?" he said. Illithra turned her attention fully to him. "You may." "How do you feel about this?" he asked. The question struck something unexpected. "How do I feel?" she repeated. "Yes," he said carefully. "Not what the data says, not what the council expects, just you." No one had asked her that in centuries. Feelings were inefficiencies. They were known, measured, managed. She searched the probability lines for the correct response, but they blurred slightly as if the question itself bent them. "This union is optimal," she said at last. Elias nodded but did not seem satisfied. He sat down, keeping a respectful distance. "I figured you'd say that," he said. "But if that's all, you don't really need me here, do you?" Elithra sensed no challenge in his words, only curiosity. "This is a ritual," she replied. "Your presence is required." "Then I'll stay," he said simply. "I just wanted to know who I'm married to." That was another strange statement. He already knew who she was, her title, her history, her power. "You know my identity," she said. "I know your name and position," he said. "That's not the same thing." The truth binding pulsed softly between them. He was not lying. Silence followed. Elithra waited for discomfort, for awkwardness, for the slow passage of time she had experienced in other bindings. Instead, Elias began to speak, not filling the silence but shaping it. He told her about Earth, about oceans he had seen only a few times and mountains he missed. He spoke of cities that never slept and places so quiet they felt unreal. He explained human stories, myths, and the strange comfort humans found in not knowing what came next. Elithra listened without interruption. As he spoke, something unusual happened. Her predictive senses struggled. Not because he was deceptive, but because his thoughts did not move in clean lines. He jumped between ideas, emotions, and memories, connecting them through meaning rather than logic. It was inefficient. It was fascinating. "Does it not trouble you," she asked, "to live without knowing outcomes?" Elias smiled softly. "All the time." "Then why do you do it?" "Because if we waited until we were sure," he said, "we'd never do anything that mattered." The words lingered. Elithra tested them against probability models. They failed to align. Later, when the chamber dimmed to its resting cycle, Elias did something no consort had ever done. He asked permission before lying down on the resting platform, choosing a place far enough to show respect, close enough to show presence. "I don't expect anything," he said. "I just didn't want you to think I was afraid of being here." She sensed no fear, only sincerity. As the cycle deepened, Elithra reviewed the night. No secrets uncovered, no dramatic revelation. And yet something had shifted. The truth binding revealed not a lack of deception, but a depth of openness she had never encountered. Humans, it seemed, did not hide because they could not see the future. They hid because they chose to. Elias slept peacefully, his breathing steady, unguarded. Elithra stood in the quiet, unable, for the first time, to predict how she felt when the morning would come. And that uncertainty unsettled her more than any threat ever had. Morning arrived in the palace without sound. Light levels shifted gently, warming the chamber. Queen Elithra stood awake long before the change, her awareness stretched outward as always. Yet something was different. The future no longer unfolded in clean lines. Possibilities overlapped, blurred, and refused to settle. Across the room, Elias still slept. His mind was quiet, not empty, but resting in a way that felt strange to her senses. Most beings carried faint currents of worry even in sleep. Elias did not. He trusted the moment enough to let go of control. That alone disturbed her. When he finally woke, he noticed her standing nearby and sat up slowly, careful not to startle her. "Good morning," he said. There was no fear in his voice, no calculation, just courtesy. "It is morning," she replied. He smiled slightly. "I'll take that as agreement." The truth binding between them remained steady. No falsehoods, no barriers. They shared a simple meal prepared by the palace systems. Elias thanked the room itself, a habit humans had developed around machines. Elithra observed this with quiet interest. Gratitude towards something that could not feel it made no logical sense, yet it changed how he behaved. After the ritual night officially ended, aides arrived to escort Elias to his assigned residence wing. Tradition would separate them during the public phase of marriage. Elithra allowed it, though a small, unmeasured resistance formed within her. Throughout the following cycles, she found her attention drifting. In council meetings, probability models still functioned, but she began noticing what they did not explain. Advisors spoke with perfect logic, yet their emotional fields carried fear. Delegates made polite offers while hiding resentment that her senses now felt more clearly. And always, when uncertainty appeared, her thoughts returned to the human. Elias moved through the palace without authority, yet conversations changed around him. Servants spoke more openly. Guards relaxed slightly. Officials underestimated him, then found themselves answering questions they did not expect. He did not command, he listened. One cycle, Illithra summoned him privately. When he arrived, he bowed, then waited. "I have observed anomalies," she said. "That sounds serious," Elias replied. "It is unclear," she said. "Your presence alters behavioral outcomes." He considered this. "People act differently when they feel seen." "I see everyone," she said. He shook his head gently. "Not the same way." She studied him. "Explain." "When you look at someone," he said, "you already know what they will do. When I look at someone, I'm trying to understand why they might choose differently." The word struck deeply. Her entire civilization was built on removing uncertainty, yet humans lived inside it, shaped by it, and somehow thrived. Soon after, the Galactic Coalition made its move. They arrived with perfect timing, flawless arguments, and peaceful intent. No fleets, no threats. Just logic. Their proposal was simple. Humanity was unstable, too emotional, too unpredictable. For the good of the galaxy, humans should be restricted, guided, placed under structured oversight. Illithra's advisors agreed. The probabilities showed minimal resistance. Humanity would accept. They always did eventually. Elias stood beside her during the presentation, silent. As the coalition finished speaking, Illithra felt the future paths narrowing toward a single outcome: order, control, stability, and something else beneath it: fear. She hesitated. Elias leaned closer, his voice low. "May I speak?" The council froze. It was not his place. Illithra allowed it. Elias turned to the coalition delegates. "Your model assumes humans will obey because it makes sense." "Yes," one replied. "History confirms this." "History also shows," Elias said calmly, "that humans follow rules only when they believe those rules are fair." The delegates dismissed this as emotional noise. Elias continued, "You don't fear human strength, you fear human choice. Because you can't predict what we'll do when pushed too far." Silence spread. Illithra felt it then, the flaw, not in logic but in understanding. The coalition believed control would bring peace. They did not account for dignity, or hope, or the way humans bonded when threatened, not through force but through shared belief. Illithra made a decision without consulting the future. She rejected the proposal. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Instead, she announced a new framework. Humans would remain autonomous. In return, they would act as mediators, not rulers, bridges between species that relied too heavily on certainty. The probabilities shattered. Chaos did not follow. Adaptation did. Some delegates protested. Others withdrew. Many reconsidered. Over the following cycles, the galaxy changed quietly. Negotiations became more honest. Conflicts resolved earlier, not because outcomes were predicted, but because misunderstandings were addressed before they hardened. Human diplomats flourished, and so did Illithra. She found herself seeking Elias not for counsel, but for presence. He asked questions she could not predict. He laughed at uncertainty instead of fearing it. He accepted not knowing her fully, yet remained loyal without condition. One night as they stood together overlooking a quiet hall, she spoke. "My people believe sight was lost," she said, "but I think it was replaced with something incomplete." Elias looked at her. "What do you think you were missing?" "Perspective," she said. "Choice without certainty," he smiled. "That's the human specialty." The galaxy soon reclassified humanity, not as primitive, not as dangerous, but as essential. Queen Illithra remained blind. Yet for the first time she understood that sight was not about seeing the future. It was about walking into it together, without fear. And that was the greatest surprise of all.